Whoosh. Big fam. This afternoon, it's hot. I drank my coffee today. And I'm filming later in the day because I want to show you something that I installed for the heat of summer for my plants. Got a popsicle? Check out what I did in the new and improved fig nursery. Today's episode is shade cloths. Also, we're getting figs ripening here, guys. And I can't believe it because that is early. My Hardy Chicago's and Celeste main crop, generally, we're talking about end of July, beginning of August. If you see my mother, Celeste, oh, look how big she is. Stunning. Stunning, guys. She has figs ripening up here. And if you can see, sure enough, the Celeste fig, the workhorse fig of the East Coast. But she's huge. And, brown sugar candy. I was eating that popsicle earlier, full of sugar, right? The sweetness of these still push through. I have a whole episode that I talk about like why I have how many varieties of figs, and I still have Celeste as my workhorse early ripening summer variety. We just had a thunderstorm about, I don't know, an hour ago. You see any of these figs? Let me see here. See this fig? You wouldn't even know that there was a thunderstorm. A lot of varieties, it would have just exploded, but not a Celeste. Look at that. See that glistening? That's sugar. My neighbor. It is so, so good. The skin's good too. The skin is sweet. When I say sugar, think molasses. Think brown sugar. Those nice tones. Versus the other workhorse variety that you see on the East Coast is what I call the Mount Etna types. So your Hardy Chicago's. I have my variety. It's called Brooklyn Park JD. Just happened to be the strain that it came from. There are other Mount Etna types like Marseille Black VS, BI39 that was introduced to us through the Our Figs Forum Taverna. It tends to have more of like a little cherry tone to it, I think, at least where I grow it. But yeah, we're getting figs ripening here. And if you guys want to see another fig, called Troiano Calabrese. And I call it an Atriano type fig because of the fig we all know as Atriano. And there are a few other fig varieties like it. There's another one called La Tarola. But these are big, beautiful figs. I've showed you guys before. They look like tennis balls. And they're great on a summer day. And the key is you really want them to ripen. If you look here, look at this guy. Just hanging, and they're very soft. They're large. And this one almost like falls off. It probably could use another day based on the skin, but these are your big green varieties. And if what we want to do is, see how the skin's hanging here? Could have used another day. Think like they got nice fiber to them, so you're starting to see these fibrous ones. People talk about textures of like banana, but it's like banana with like agave nectar or like simple syrup sweetener on them. And they're like refreshing, but they're big. Takes like 3 bites to eat them. And Troiano, because it grows in a container, it ripens earlier for me. Figs, if you can grow a fig in the ground, generally they'll ripen a little bit later. Because when I grow them in containers, they kind of wake up sooner and I do a fig shuffle with them. And that helps them get comfortable and set fruit and grow sooner in the year. So now I can enjoy figs that I normally enjoy in August, July 7th, which is great. I just threw the stem over my fence there. But that's Troiano Calabrese. And then I have other ones ripening too. My LSU Tiger, they're starting to get dark and they have beautiful colorations. They have the red striations, which is probably why they're called LSU Tiger. And then my Socorro Black is only a 2-year-old tree, but it's starting to ripen at the base. Socorro Black will get two-toned on you, so it'd be more of a dark fig. And then LSU Hollier is just, or Hollier is just starting to swell, like early. We are looking forward. This is what darker figs do. They swell, then they turn dark. Light figs just swell and you have to feel them out. So this one, see how this one's like, the yellow jacket's on it. See how this one's like hanging on the tree? You gotta let it just hang there and get these, it'll put out these sugar spots. But look at that thing. You gotta love those Troiano type figs. They're just like big, sweet summertime indulgence figs. And they kind of prep your palate for the fall ahead when you start getting into your like Figa Pretos, Black Maderas, Coldadams, which just take on a whole new perspective. And then I'm still waiting on my Peter's honeys to start ripening. We may be another month out, but you catch me at a good time, guys, because I'm eating figs, and that's why we're here. It's just me walking around my garden waiting to eat figs, and lo and behold, we're getting ripe figs. So you see how they start hard and green, and they just lighten up a little bit and start to swell. And then these will hang. They'll get sugar spots on them. They'll look delectable. And right when you don't think they're ready to be picked, you kind of touch them a little bit and they'll practically fall off the tree. So that's why I love that variety. But here's the thing. The sun gets intense here and we have to be on top of our figs. Otherwise they'll get stressed when they're young. And so what I installed was shade cloth. Check it out. I have my shade cloth here with all my young trees in it. And I have my big shade cloth here with all my second and third year trees that I'm practicing growing. And see how I have full sun here? We're still seeing some stress, and this fig needs some love and some water. So we'll give it that. These others need some water, and we'll give them some. Welcome to the upgraded fig tree nursery. I have 2 sets of shade cloth. One up here, and this one is 14 by 20 feet, and it is at 40% shade, so 60% of the light gets through. Right next to us, I have a 30% shade cloth that I believe is probably 10 feet by 10 foot to fulfill the arch. And this is at 30% shade cloth. And the reason it's slightly lighter is because if you had been watching my videos, you know that I put this 30% on top of my greenhouse to try to keep it cool this spring. And it took the sun away, but the greenhouse effect was still so strong that it was still getting well over 90 degrees in there. And I said, you know what? Let's just transition the baby fig trees outside in a shade cloth on this low tunnel that was going to make an additional greenhouse with, but it actually works great as a cool house in the summer with just shade cloth. So these are all my cuttings that are rooting now. These are all my 1-year-old trees that I am just taking care of. I just up-potted, I don't know, 20 fig trees from cuttings I had forgotten about. And the best part about rooting cuttings this time of year is that it's warm out and it's humid out, and they'd love both of those things. As long as they're shaded, they will grow for you. And so I put them in this shade house that's 30% because this is what I have. And behind you, I get morning shade probably until about 12:31 p.m. That's when it hits about here. And then for the rest of the afternoon, we get full sun into this nursery. And as you can see, I have to be on top of my watering. And one of the things you can see on some of my fig trees, like this Norella, and like see this Celeste right here, is that if I'm not watering on a daily basis, a lot of these figs, they will get stressed. And figs get stressed from heat. 2 things happen, right? A, they're dehydrated, so they're not getting enough water to take up and hydrate themselves and take up nutrients. And B, the green growth can get stressed on them and they have to create more new leaves when the conditions change. They will get sunburnt, and any sort of stress on the plant, including heat stress, can lead to things like pests, diseases, fungus, things like fig rust, right? After I'm done chatting with you guys, I'm going to water the heck out of these fig trees. I'm in the process of installing an irrigation system that's going to save me loads of time. I've had irrigation systems in the past. I've hit them with the lawnmower recently, so I have to reinstall them. And it's been so hot and dry here that even my in-ground trees are being affected. So I'm setting up a watering system for the in-ground trees to get water when it hasn't been doing our afternoon thunderstorms. I was talking to a family member, and you know, figs are supposed to be great in Mediterranean climates, and that is true. But figs adapt to their conditions. And sometimes on the East Coast here, we can have variable conditions. And then if they're not prepared for it, they can get stressed. So if they're used to having lots of water and all of a sudden they don't, they will feel that stress. If they're used to having a drier climate and they get lots of water, they can also feel that stress because it's just change. Stress, I've been told in a variety of platforms, is the inability to cope with the changes in your surroundings. And when you think about a fig tree that's used to getting a thunderstorm every day at 4 p.m., or you're thinking about a fig tree that doesn't get rain for 2 months at a time, they get used to those conditions. And when you change them up, if they cannot adapt to those changes, it can stress the plant and force it to change as well. But stressing the plant can lead to vulnerability to pests and diseases, stunt its growth, and ultimately not produce figs. And so what you see here, and actually you can see some of the fig rest, when it's not getting enough watering, they will droop. So you're seeing the drooping right now. Sometimes when the pots get overheated, they will droop. The other indicator is that the leaves will yellow and then they will fall off. And they're basically aborting those leaves. They will eventually push out new growth, but it's kind of like a precursor to dormancy.
I had to move my camera because in full sun, it got too hot for the camera, and I'm putting it in the shade now. But now we get to be among the fig trees, which is kind of my favorite place to be. So what I was recapping on is heat stress on your fig trees. They are supposed to be full sun plants, right? And they can be. In fact, you guys saw my mother fig tree over there. A lot of the practice that I'm doing is really in the first 3 years of a fig tree's life here on the East Coast of the United States, in the Southeast, where it can get hot and we can have variable temperatures and variable changes in weather. But as a whole, once the fig tree gets established, they're kind of quite easy. And that's a beautiful thing of a fig tree. And once they're happy and they start making fruit, they will give you fruit year after year after year. What I really want to talk about today, aside from it's always a joy to share figs with you guys, is the shade cloth. And this is a great way to mitigate heat exposure to fig trees here in the Southeast. All my influence from shade cloths has been from the Millennial Gardener. So shout out to him. He is a neighbor and friend of mine that lives over the way, and I love following his stuff. So if you don't follow him, please give him a follow and like. He is brilliant. This shade cloth has done wonders for the space. It has eliminated time spent watering, stress on my fig trees as a whole. It has also expanded space for my young fig trees to acclimate outdoors. So I'm going to turn the camera for you. I lifted up this shade cloth here to see all my young fig trees that I've recently rooted in the past few months and how they're not drooping, but as soon as I open them up to full sun, you can see this Negroni is immediately drooping. You can see the Celeste just rooted, but with the shade cloth on, they were doing great. I do not have to water every single day. Watering sometimes in the summer doesn't mean hydrating them. Watering actually means cooling down those dark pots. They can just get really hot here, and that can really stress the plant. You can see right here, this is a Norella that I got from Ross the Fig Boss. I got 4 cuttings from him, and this one, I rooted it this winter. It grew it's going to finish growing at 6 feet this year, and it's putting out fruit. I'm really excited. It looks like a Mount Etna type based on its leaf growth. I say it takes on a club shape on the lobes here, but you can see it's a little heat stressed and it's a little dry in the water. And the reason it's stressed is because it's in between these 2 shade cloths out in the sun here. I'm going to give it some water. I'm testing the boundaries of what works best. But if I were to turn you back here into the shaded area, these figs are happy as a clam. Look at this. Same fig. This one is 266, a Beans Abundance from the Fig Hunter. A lot of these are testing out varieties. I'm in a big season of finding what works best for our climate here. But basically what I'm getting at is that if you are growing big garden spaces and you have plants that require full sun, like fig trees, it depends where you are where you want full sun. And it also doesn't mean full sun throughout the entire day. Sometimes they just need some direct solar exposure. Otherwise, when they're young, you could put them up for a lot of stress, which can stunt their growth and make them vulnerable to disease. Don't you sweat. I'm going to water that fig tree in a little bit here, and that's totally safe. It'll rebound quite nicely. If we take a look into the nursery space here, You can see it's almost like a partial eclipse type thing, and it's beautiful for these fig trees, right? These figs are not prepared for full sun. In fact, I had them over in the shade over there, and they actually canopied over each other, which was fine except for one thing in the southeast. And that one thing is fig rust. And fig rust is something that I manage on an annual basis and that I've kind of accepted as an inevitability of living in the humid southeast. But as I move into a commercial production fig space, I want it to minimize as much as possible. Me as a general gardener, I don't mind that much, but me as a provider of fig trees to others, when I give you a fig tree, I want it to be in its best shape possible. And right now, that is my biggest struggle is I'm hitting the time of year that if I'm growing fig trees close together, that I'm putting them susceptible to poor air circulation, which can introduce things like fungus. And what fig rust is a fungus. If we look at my Italian CT, and actually when I crumble it and flip it over, you see the brown. Let's see these. That's indications of sunburn, but it's indications of fig rust. Fortunately, these are in good spaces, but the lower canopy leaves that aren't getting good airflow have fig rust as well. And these have come off of my Ravine de Calce and my Italian CT. And what it is they're little fungal spores that have landed on the plant and have been in a humid and hot enough climate that they can now grow, and they'll actually spread their spores off to other leaves. And whether they land and create more spores there or they go into dormancy, they can still be on those leaves. And so generally when I pick them off, they are going away. As much as I want to fertilize my fig trees with past leaves, I don't want to repeat the cycle of fig rust, right? Tying it back to the shade cloth, because I just moved these in a few days ago. When I have shade cloth, I can spread them out more. These were underneath canopies of larger fig trees. And by spreading them out on their own, away from each other, I can get good air circulation and I can leave a less stressed plant from shade cloth, providing a good foundational space for growing a young fig tree into a mature fig tree, free of pests and diseases for my friends, family, and the greater fig family, you guys. So that's the goal with the shade cloth, to create more of a controlled environment that is safe for fig trees to grow pest and disease free. And it's a really simple step. I think I spent, I don't know, $48. I'll throw the link in the bio on this shade cloth here. Again, it's 14 by 20. You can find the dimensions that work best for you. You can even lay them over like a hoop house or your greenhouse. I couldn't do it with my greenhouse because this faces south. This greenhouse gets so hot in the summer that the only thing that lives in it are succulents and things that can really, and like maybe some cacti, but I don't have any. Maybe a dragon fruit one day. But you can see here, my Coragio, that since I moved it in here, it's put out new growth that is rust free. And it'll drop those leaves and kind of be barren until it puts out new growth. And that makes me happy. It makes me happy that it's working. It makes me happy the fig trees can be happy. Let's check it out over here. You can see over here, like it's rebounding. This tree was not, it's a Celeste. And what I do is I'll strip these. Is that it wasn't getting enough water. So what does that ultimately do? It puts stress on the plant. I have only just installed the shade cloth. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spread these figs out. And there is one last thing I must do. And I came out to film instead, but I'm going to spend the rest of my afternoon doing it, is water these plants. There's one great thing about the shade cloth, and that is reducing, that I love too, and it's reducing the amount of watering I have to do. But it doesn't eliminate it completely. We still live in a hot climate. These plants are trying to grow as happily and as quickly as they feel comfortable. And the key is you got to keep up with the watering. You just got to know the changes in your watering schedule. I had some family time on this 4th of July long weekend that I took, went to the beach, and unfortunately, it took a toll on my fig trees, but the impacts are less severe because of the shade cloth. So I'm going to go ahead and water them so they're not looking droopy. I'm going to finish watering in a bit. I want to say thank you to all of you guys. I am actually going to do a giveaway this episode. Come with me. I have a lot of baby fig trees in here. And once they take off growing on their own, and I'm going to put the shade cloth off after I do something with you guys, they are happy. and they want to be on their own, growing in great organic soil that I try to give them. But when they're young and they're growing rapidly, they do take up a lot of nutrients. And there's a great way to kind of give them a multivitamin, and that is well-rounded fertilizer. A lot of people like to use Osmocote. A lot of people like to use the brand that they seem to fit best. And a lot of people focus on the NPKs. But a big thing that I also like to focus on are the second three macronutrients. And this is what I learned through Ivy Organics. They picked me up. I am an affiliate with them, full transparency. I am because I actually love the products that I work with them. My 3-in-1 plant guard, which is kind of like a replacement for kaolin clay. It is also an organic plant guard for my damaged fig trees, and it has just done wonders for my Figo Preto. And they have awesome organic materials and ingredients in the 3-in-1, and they have an all-purpose fertilizer that is also organic that covers 3 other nutrients that I think are really important for fig trees. And that is your magnesium, that is your calcium, and that is your sulfur, right? So you have your NPKs, like your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and your potassium. And then you have the second half, and that is great for fig trees. Your calcium, your magnesium, and your sulfur. Those are so crucial to the important nutrients of fig trees. I've applied just NPK fertilizers before, and I still get nice figs, right? Adding supplemented things like Epsom salts and adding garden lime give you your calcium, magnesium, and sulfurs on top of everything. But once I start adding it, I'm going to show you the difference. And the full disclaimer, I'm an affiliate. I have a discount code Phil10, but I applied to half of these babies the all well-rounded 333, this bag here. And let's just take a look. This Stella, this TZ12 I got from Profig, and this Grigio I got that I'm testing out, that I got from Bill off the beaten path as a cutting. They're lush, they're green, they show no signs of stress. I have these trees, my Longueuat and these Marseille Blacks. And don't get me wrong, for a young tree, they're growing just fine. But so they're a little yellower. They are getting kind of similar watering scenarios. They're all under the shade cloth. They actually get a little more shade over here, and they've actually taken off much better just from those environmental changes. But if I added a quarter cup of the 333 to a 1-gallon pot, I'm expecting the next month or so for them to behave like this. You can see the leaves getting darker and greener. Now, granted, there's no fertilizer in this. It's just mushroom compost, soil conditioner, perlite, and coconut coir. So basics. They can get what they need. When they level up, when I put them into 3 gallons is usually when I hit them, but testing them out in 1-gallon pots, I'm already seeing the difference. So in reality, I'm noticing a difference just from a methods point of view, changing my methods to add fertilizer into their lineup. It should have been a no-brainer to add fertilizer earlier, and I usually want them to take their time and get comfortable, because I have had great success in the soil compositions that I'm using. If you're making your own soil, you're probably not adding things like azomite. You're probably not adding things like fish meal and broken down compost that's from kelp and other things that a lot of soil brands make. But I just find that soil is so expensive these days. It's in my best interest to make my own mix. That being said, it's important to amend that mix with more nutrients that are great for figs. I like the slow release stuff. I do the liquid stuff in the spring. I haven't been doing liquid stuff this summer because it's really hot and I'm really busy with all the things going on in my life. Fortunately, I love what I do out here. This is my piece of peace. I get to share that with you guys. And this helps my piece of peace bloom. I've been really thrilled with this. If you have a fertilizer that works great for you, that's awesome. I'm really great. If you're not sure and you're still shopping around, give this a go. And I say quarter cup, but I eyeball it. Now, this stuff's a little more powdery than your pelletized stuff that you would see. I'm okay with that. I want nutrient absorption. And what I do is I sprinkle it on and I massage it in. And then I water it on top. Generally, I try not to get the leaves. I water around it. But because this fig is such a baby, that was a little difficult to do. She'll be okay. She's drooping because I have the shade cloth off. We have the opportunity to give away 5 of these to 5 individuals, the all-purpose organic fertilizer. So as a big thank you, I want to give away 5 of these bags or a bottle of the 3-in-1 plant spray. It is a great spray for the trunks, a foliar application. You can do it twice and it'll protect your fig trees from sunburn, insects, and rodents. and everyone has their own problems, and that seems to cover the gambit of a lot of them. If you would like either the fertilizer or the IV Organics 3-in-1 spray in a bottle ready to go, make sure you subscribed, make sure you've liked, and then make sure you comment in the post tagging someone else that you think would also appreciate Phil's Figs or IV Organics in the channel. You can comment up to 3 times, and I will take all the comments and I will do a random selection of 5 people, and I can let IV Organics know, and they'll reach out to you with shipping details. It's just another thank you. I love giving things away. It makes me feel really good. And I want you guys not just to have a fig tree. I want you guys to enjoy your fig tree. It's really a centerpiece of any garden or yard, and they have such a rich history in human culture. And they're such a wonderful gateway into growing fruit trees in your backyard space because they fruit so early in their lives, and they can be abundantly full of fruit at a small size as well. So thank you guys. If you like this video, like, subscribe, reach out with questions, not just on fertilizer, but look at this shade cloth. I'm going to post a link below on where I got this shade cloth on Amazon. And shout out again to Millennial Gardener for all his tips on everything garden related. In fact, he has amazing fig trees. All right. Hey, thanks, Fig Fam. I'll talk to you soon.